What's up, people? I'm Erica, and this is Cocktails and Capitalism, a podcast that pairs crafted beverages with stories distilled from our capitalist hellscape. Today, we are joined by someone I'm really excited to speak with, Shibby in Liverpool. He is the host of the Revolutionary Lumpen Radio podcast. He has given Palestine Action workshops on how to shut down an arms factory. He's actually been arrested and acquitted many times for his involvement with Palestine Action. Also, I thought it would be cool to add that Max Geller, who was previously on the show to talk about Palestine Action, said that Shibby is one of our most notorious members. And so I thought that was a ringing endorsement. So I want to include that. How are you doing, Shibby?
I'm great, yeah. It's a pleasure being here on this platform. I love your work. I love your craft. I think you're an expert at it, and we're also lucky to have you. And I think that that's why so many people support you in your work and look forward to each and every episode. So, yeah, I'm just privileged, or feel privileged to be here.
Oh my God, that was so sweet.
It's okay. I've got even more flattery for you. I also want to thank you again for your continued support on Palestine Action. Obviously, me being the third guest here, talking about Palestine Action. I think it's important for people with these platforms to reach so many listeners, and particularly supporters of Palestine and decolonialism in general, making the most out of that and sharing the work the Palestine Action's doing and the sacrifices of the 500 or so actionists that have came before. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that is so amazing to hear. And I feel exactly the same about the work that you've been doing, the podcast that you run. Revolutionary Lumpen Radio is really fucking amazing, guys. If you want like actually revolutionary take on political issues, and if you want to deep dive into Palestine Action stuff, that is such a wonderful place to go, and it is one of my favorite podcasts as well. So yeah, just so amazed by the work you're doing, and so excited that Max connected us.
Yeah, Max is me boy. Shout out, Max. I love you. I love you. What can I say? I love you.
I love you too, Max. You're fucking amazing. Well, on that note, we better get to toasting. I've got my Free Palestine cocktail that I just need to assemble here. It's got a layer of green juice on the bottom that I froze to keep it layered, and I'm adding the watermelon on the top. So hopefully this will add a really nice red and green Palestine colors.
It's working.
Drink. So yeah,
look at that.
It's pretty cool. I've fucked this up many a time. So my new strategy was to freeze the green juice at the bottom, and I used celery juice because that's one of my favorite green juices. But yay! All right.
Look at that. Don't call it Cocktails and Capitalism for nothing. Look at yeah, that looks special.
Cheers, dude. So happy to have you here.
I actually, you know what happened? As I said, our chat got deleted because I went to a new device. So I sort of lost the list, but we don't do watermelon juice in Britain. It's just not a thing. So what I do have is a Rubicon guava. I've got some Sun Exotic, pineapple and coconut. I blended them together, and I'm with you in solidarity, sister.
I love that. Well, cheers in solidarity and free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
And I love the watermelon juice. It's so good. So refreshing. I will include the recipe for the Free Palestine cocktail in the show notes. But yeah, it's basically made with watermelon juice, lime juice, simple syrup as the red layer. And the green layer is a green juice of some sort, whatever your favorite green juice is. Or if you're using alcohol, Midori lemon liqueur. And then you could also make it more alcoholic if you are into that. And add mezcal, gin, tequila, Iraq, if you're looking for a Palestinian hard alcohol. But we decided to go with a non-alcoholic drink for this episode because we wanted to be in solidarity with our Muslim comrades. So yeah, we decided to forego the alcohol this time. So I was hoping that maybe you could introduce yourself a bit more, anything that I missed, and then also kind of say a bit about what your role, your participation in Palestine Action has been.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I think I'm just going to quickly sort of skim through my life to just hopefully try and touch so many others' experiences as well, to try and bring it together. Awesome. So I was one of those young kids where I didn't want to go to school in primary school, secondary school. I stayed off. Because I was staying off, the state would get involved, the support workers and the council would come around and say, oh, he's got to go to school. They gave me support workers to try and encourage you. I was being told, if you don't go to school, your mum's going to get arrested, and they're going to have to pay fines. And we were super fucking poor anyway. So I was like, what kind of world am I being born into? So, you know, instead of for safety, the fences outside the school just looked like a prison. So I was opposed to all that, blew my mind. Eventually I grow up, become about 14, 15, 16. I get into free running, parkour, where you're doing... It's effectively traveling from point A to B in like the most efficient way, but you can pick up like skills like flips, for example. So you do that, do it outside, but climb buildings all the time. In the middle of the night, we'll go outside and just scale buildings. While literally kids my age were in secondary school taking the exams, the GCSE exams, I'd be on a rooftop somewhere climbing it. So like at this point in my life, I also still hated going to school and that. I loved learning, I loved education, but I just hated the way that school was, basically. So when I was on the top of these roofs, I'd literally look down thinking... I'd look at the workers like scudding about. This is how I'd see them. I'd think, oh, these are scudding about going to their office. We'd be like fit and healthy and strong and doing impressive things with their bodies. And I thought, like, I don't want to spend my life in an office working when we're having so much fun climbing and jumping, you know, just being kids effectively. And then many of those same people now work for like MTV. We're probably seeing some of the people who I was training with in movies because they're stuntmen and things. I didn't make it, so basically I ended up back in my neighbourhood around 17. But also around 18, I'd found a stall in the city centre where I went over to see this Che Guevara face. I was like, who is this man? What's going on with his face? Why do people wearing on T-shirts? So I'd run over and the name was Robert. They taught me about the Cuban Revolution, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro. We, at a cafe that we arranged actually for meeting them. So I learned about socialism, I learned about capitalism, and then I knew at that stall, before even going into the ins and outs of it, I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I was like, this is what everybody needs to do. Like, this is how we overthrow the people who make lives miserable when it simply doesn't have to be. I'd be a kid, like, we'd be poor, my mum didn't smoke or drink, but we'd still run out of electricity over the night or until my mum could find money to lend off somebody, and gas and things. And then while the electricity was on, we'd be watching the fucking Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, living in fucking Hollywood in big ass houses. We'd be like, what the fuck is this? So I became a socialist. Also, for years, I'd basically done the stalls, sold those communist newspapers, arranged film shows, went to the protests, done all those things. And I don't think that we were any closer to an armed revolution that I expected or wanted or needed. So what happened was I eventually just started smoking weed, and then before long... Well, after a couple of years, I actually ended up with some sort of, lumpen workers who sold drugs, and eventually I got asked, do I want to hop on a phone? So I sold some weed, some ketamine for a period of time over years. This is the same time Revolutionary Lumpen Radio started, and the whole premise of it was to try and radicalize the gangs in the city and the criminal element. That was the whole purpose of it.
Wow.
So it was a tool to try and radicalize them, and also at the same time prove to existing Marxists and communists that the lumpen proletariat today actually do hold revolutionary potential, I'd be seeing like thousands and thousands of pounds and that they'd make, and I'd just be like, imagine, like, we need to be spending that on the revolution. You know, these are people who, but I pitied them as well, though. You know, I loved them, but I pitied them because I knew, whereas they didn't, what they were doing would eventually lead them to prison. And also, more than that, it was structured, it was set up, they were statistically destined to probably fall into that category. You know, their parents had a similar life. So I wanted to show them that there was something else. I wanted to show them that there's an international community that can show them solidarity, and their voice is important. I mean, I just try and get across that stuff. It didn't work. I didn't radicalize them. God knows I tried, but some were more sympathetic than others and picked up on it. I think that these still respect me.
That's amazing.
While that stopped after a few years, that was the same time that I'd started a free food program off the support from my podcast and a couple of personal friends and supporters of mine. So that the idea of that was survival programs off the backs of the Black Panther Party. We're talking about base building here. So the premise for my program was to turn people's hunger from capitalism into a hunger for socialism. So by providing them with many, by providing them by various meals, and like, I think it was like 8 to 12 meals that they could get like every week or something that I could afford. While doing that, give them like some communist literature, and I'd explain to them why they even need this parcel in the first place. It's because of a conscious decision from parasites in Parliament that are perpetuating policy in a class-structured society, and people have overthrown these kinds of people in the past, and we need to do it again. Especially when they're living in decadence, and exploiting the whole rest of the world to live like that. So, what happened, that was going for a few months, the funds dried up. I was absolutely loco on social media. I was like, why is everybody not doing this? Like, people need to, like, even as a Marxist, this is still what we need to be doing, base building. If you think about the Black Panthers, they had the free food programs, they had the breakfast programs, they had the George Jackson Health Clinic, they were setting up hospitals, they had education programs. They were trying to build the same basis that capitalism builds. So what they done is, by creating all these different bases that provide for the people in different means, the people were less reliant on the state in order for healthcare or education or food. Mm-hmm. So the Panthers basically, from that, their own superstructure grew then. And that is the idea that we don't actually need the state. The state can wither away, and as long as we look after each other and provide for each other, like, they're not only going to be better off, but they're also just don't need to support the state's mechanisms and economic foundations. So basically that was the whole premise, basically, and that's what I was going for. And the funds ran out, so I was starting to actually lose it, because, like, as George Jackson said, people are living butchered hard lives. People are starving. So many people in Britain are hungry, and like, I feel like the only method to address people's concerns and actually lead them to socialism is provide for them through socialism. That speaks more than reading an article about Lenin or, reading some Marxist theory. Like, that does more for people, and that is a direct form of action in it. So when that dried up, I was like, I can't take, like, these Eurocentric Marxists anymore. Like, why are they just so focused in the Communist parties that aren't doing anything, or just doing what I was doing donkeys ago and seeing it's not enough? I'd have people during the free food program knocking at my doors, begging people, messaging me on Facebook, like, begging for food parcels, when they didn't have to beg. They were so used to having to beg to the state, because to get on the food bank here, these are where people can collect food if they actually have none. To do that, they have to go through the job seekers allowance and then get permission. They have to explain what they've spent the money on. And I even met people who were disabled when I was doing it, who couldn't receive food bank parcels anymore because they're only entitled to like 3 a year. So they had to come to me. So I was like, and that's when I was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I was like, I mean, it's eugenics, it's social murder. This is what's going on everywhere, right? And people need to understand why this is and what they can do about it. This is what like communists or anti-capitalists should be doing. Because ultimately the system's going to collapse anyway because it's economically destined to fail. It can't continue. So we have to do these things. Like, so at that same time, when I was absolutely at my wit's end, that's when I learned about Palestine Action shutting down the first site in Oldham, and it was permanently. I learned that from a Twitter space. So I joined in, listened on, and was like, holy shit. I was like, this is people actually going against the imperialist like infrastructure and weapons factories, making a difference, and they permanently shut it down. At the time, people hadn't even been like charged for this, so it was like, this is like what I have to do. So I wanted to do that, to build on all of the momentum the Palestine Action had at that point already. Since then, we've seen many, many victories. But I just remember before we basically finish up on a brief summary of who I was before here, I just remember one comrade who was a supporter when I had the survival programs. They said, if you do this, which I was doing, the actions with Palestine Action, you're just going to go to prison and you're not going to be able to like serve the people anymore and they're going to go hungry. And like, I thought at the time, I was like, I'm not going to go to prison. It's happened twice since, but I'm not going to go to prison. Also, I've got the time and I'd still be there for the people. That wasn't the case because I remember after some deep thinking and looking into obviously Palestine more, and how important the work was that Palestine was doing and how much of a material difference it had in Palestine. I was like, yes, like being hungry in Britain is bad. I've missed meals. It's uncomfortable, but it's not your flesh being seared off your bones. It's not like looking at your dead children's body parts being where they shouldn't be. It's like, there's a total difference. So this is where I'm coming from when I say our complicity. It's like I feel like if we're actually going to build socialism or communism, we have to stop what we're doing to places like Palestine by supporting Israel, a settler colonial regime. We just can't continue to build socialism while we're so responsible, while these weapons are coming from our doorstep. It's so hypocritical. And it's no wonder people can't take communist parties seriously, actually. I'm sorry to go there, but I mean, I am a Marxist, like I'm a revolutionary. If there was any communist Marxist organisation even making a slither of the difference the Palestine Action was making as an internationalist group, then I'd be with them, but they don't exist. So that's why I take Palestine Action, that's why I support it.
That was such an amazing telling of your story and how you actually came to Palestine Action. I did not know so much of this about your background, being raised in poverty while watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, having your electricity cut out in between. Like, that was such a striking story, and it really shows kind of the grounding for all of your future political values and your political commitments, which is really amazing. So thank you for sharing all of that. I love to show these things that are so personal in people's lives because it really helps them connect with these political issues that we're talking about, you know? You started to talk about how you got involved with Palestine Action. Can you say a little bit about both what Palestine Action is and how you have participated in it?
Yeah, sure. So Palestine Action is a direct action network that seeks to end British complicity with the Israeli arms trade. I'd say British complicity. I think that's both the people of Britain are complicit when it's so easy to shut these places down, and also the complicity in Britain part is also towards the government, who are happily trading with a genocidal state. As for my participation in Palestine Action, I took my first action in January 2021, I think. And that was a rooftop occupation, high-level action, shut the place down for weeks. They produced the engines for the Hermes 450 and 900 drones. We managed to destroy at least 2 of them. We were in the position working methodically, where my group was absolutely incredible. I mean, it was just such a perfect code. It's like where the universe comes together and makes a new particle that just happens to be alive from just inorganic matter. That's
magic.
That's what it was like when we come together. So we come alive for Palestine, and we were even taking bricks out of this roof of this factory and then throwing those bricks down at the components and the drone engines inside. So we were using the factory to actually destroy the production of that factory. So we, I suppose it was also just sort of surreal that this drone factory was getting attacked from above for a change. So there was that. We shut it down for like 3 weeks and never ever regretted it, never looked back. It was, besides my son's birth, it was the second best day of my life. And kept in touch with all of my comrades. We still have that trial coming up because they don't want to face us in court because Elbit is guilty. We were perfectly justified in doing everything we done to prevent the loss of life and property in Palestine and other places. Yeah, so people have probably seen Hezbollah shoot down a drone recently, and that was the exact same drone that we destroyed the engine of. So just by us taking direct action that day, there was 2 drones that would never take flight.
Wow, that is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was surreal because we were on that roof. We know what they'd done, but once we actually ripped the skylight off and saw inside and saw the drone engines, we were just like, and then saw the paintings and pictures on the walls glorifying these death machines, we just stepped it up a whole other level. So the second one was probably the first Palestine Action camp that was actually outside UAV engines again in the woods opposite. We were camping in some trees, in some hammocks dead high up. It was constant skirmishes on the site. We were face to face with the security a lot. After that, the security were forced to wear body cams and keep their mouth shut. There was instances where security took the balaclava of one of our comrades over the fence, and that nearly turned into a riot.
Wow.
The police were forced; they were compelled to make them give it back. Wow. But at this site we saw. At the site we saw, even though security hit a pensioner in the face after looking behind them to make sure police wasn't looking because other people were camping around as well. So we observed just how violent and thuggish and henchmen like Elbit security are. We think that we often hire ex-military and ex-IDF as well to obviously protect Elbit's arms factories.
Yeah.
So there's some things that happen that don't happen, and another thing that has happened was the siege, which was so interesting because we turned up outside. So I've got like a little flyer on my wall. I haven't got one near me, but effectively this was outside UAV tactical systems, which is not too far from UAV engines in Shenstone. In UAV tactical systems, they produced the actual chassis of the Hermes 450 and 900 drones. Just a few weeks back, there was an action where a group of actionists drove with a van, smashed right through Elbit's gate, and then smashed right into the side of that site, while at the same time in the pincer manoeuvre there were other actionists who got behind while that distraction was happening and got up on the roof.
Wow.
They cut a hole in the roof and they could see these full-on bodies with these drone engines, which they then thrown fire extinguishers, ladders, and once again the chimney for these sites were getting thrown down on these drones as well. So it's like, we talk about these things, we see this conflict and that, but they're literally being produced on our doorstep. They're within an hour and a half drive of most people. So we just need to understand what we can do to shut them down permanently. I mean, I never done anything, so this is still basically ongoing as well. I got arrested for a conspiracy to shut down the London Stock Exchange, and this was like big news. My face and my name was plastered on national, local and international newspapers and websites across the world. I saw some of the comments on like the website version of these articles, and it was like just fascist newspaper, just like British nationalist newspaper. It is like GMB. All of the comments was like, do you know, like the medieval times where you put your like head in your hands in this wooden device, and then people throw tomatoes and apples at you? Well, the comments was like the modern equivalent of that for me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they were calling me a terrorist. They were saying I should go to prison and never get out. So it was big news. It stated in the article that I was a ringleader for that action, and because of that, I was arrested and then held on remand. So I was in a remand prison for a few days until I got out, thanks to PAL Action arrest or prison support. So what can I say? And I've also supported them as much as possible.
Yeah, you've done an amazing job. It blows my mind that you have not only been covering it, but actually intimately participating in it and putting your freedom on the line for this cause. It's really, really remarkable and incredible.
Yeah, thanks. It's again, Palestine Action are perfectly justified to smash up an arms factory. That's why so many people have been acquitted. And in any case, it's a matter of urgency. Like, it's coming from our shores. We shouldn't. I mean, they don't have the military hardware. They don't have anti-air systems to prevent all of this. But we have hammers or nails, and we can put an end to the Israeli arms trade. Amazing.
Fuck yeah. Well, I wanted to shift a little bit to talking about the Tamworth victory. That was such a huge, huge victory for Palestine Action. Another facility was shut down entirely. I don't know if you want to explain a little bit of what happened there, just kind of dive into, why that was so significant.
Can I just say, first of all, as well, one of the victories we've had is when Fisher German, one of the landlord at UAV Engines, cut ties with Elbit Systems. And at the same time, there was a local group, a picket crew in Liverpool forming, and what we'd managed to do, we tried for a while to try and pivot protests in the city centre towards the source of what they're protesting, which is these arms factories producing stuff for the Israeli military. That's literally the source of all these problems. Israelis aren't fighting Palestinians with the bare hands. They're fighting them with firearms and other things. So they're coming from these factories. So we tried to direct the city centre protests with so many people towards these local arms factories. And that's what they done in Oldham. That's why it worked as well, because the locals were out as well as people on the roof. So it wasn't just a few loonies smashing up a place. It was also showing that the community was against this site being there. So what we've done is we encouraged people to protest outside Fisher German, and they were phenomenal pickets. But then, like, within a week of that, we had to tell them, sorry guys, you've done amazing work, but you've got to do something else. Fisher Germans cut ties. And nobody knew what to do with themselves because nobody's done protesting before and actually had a victory. They were like, what the hell? Do you know what I mean? So, but I felt that, I mean, I'm sort of used to it now, but that was a similar feeling that I felt when I learned that the Tamworth site had been shut down. We know it's going to happen, but every time it happens, you're just like, holy shit, it's happened again. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so unfathomable.
Oh, cheers to that, man.
Yeah, cheers.
Fuck yeah.
Tamworth,
yes.
I go into our statement. So, relentless direct action has secured another victory in the fight against Israel's arms trade, as Elite KL, a subsidiary of Elbit Systems, cut ties with their parent company after the unanimous decision by its board of directors in a desperate bid to save their Tamworth site from ruins. The company has previously manufactured cooling and power management systems for military vehicles, but was sold on after stating that it faced fallen profits and increased security costs resulting from Palestine Action's efforts. After the sale was completed in the recent months, Elite KL's new owners, listed as Griffin Newco Limited, confirmed in an email to Palestine Action that they will have nothing to do with the previous owners, Elbit, and have discontinued any arms manufacturing. So this is unreal. It's unreal seeing this text in an inbox as well from an arms company. They said, this is what they sent us. They said, following the recent acquisition of Elite KL Limited by a UK investment syndicate, the newly appointed board has unanimously agreed to withdraw from all future defence contracts and terminate its association with its former parent company. So
Elbit Systems.
They were just like straight up saying, look, we've cut all ties. We're done. We're not dealing with Elbit. And this was a subsidiary of Elbit.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Wow.
So they completely cut ties with the parents, and this is because Palestine Action exists. It's because Palestine Action works. So
yeah, it's insane that would actually happen, and that they would actually go through the process of reaching out to Palestine Action directly to say, hey, please don't fuck with us anymore. We're not going to do the thing that you hate, the thing that you're protesting at all. Like that is, I've never heard such a clear victory like that, It's pretty wild.
It does get better as well. It gets better. So they say, the victory is a direct result of sustained direct action which has sought throughout Palestine Action's existence to make it impossible for Elbit to afford to operate in Britain. Before they sold the enterprise to a private equity syndicate, Elbit had reported that Elite KL operating profits had been slashed by over 3/4, with Palestine Action responsible. Elbit directly cited the increased expenditure on security they'd be forced to make and higher supply chain costs they faced. So there's no denying it was us.
And they're not even trying to hide that it was a victory for you, which is amazing. I can't believe that they wouldn't try to bury that, but thank God.
Yeah, it gets to a point where they have to hire so much security that it's just not profitable for them to do what they're doing. And the transportation, people don't even want to transport to them, so they've got to pay exorbitant prices. So this is what we mean by isolating them, and economic, reputational sabotage and sustained action. Just everything builds on each other. So it says, and these actions did indeed cost them. The first action at the site in November 2022 saw Elite KL's premises smashed into, the building covered in blood red paint. Between March and July 2021, the site was put out of action 3 times by rooftop occupations, drenched red in March 2021, with the factory's camera systems dismantled before again being occupied in May. Another rooftop occupation in July, despite increased security, saw the site forced closed, once again painted in blood red, with its windows and fixings smashed through. In February 2022, activists decommissioned the site for weeks, closed off after an occupation that saw over £250,000 worth of damages caused. The roof tiles removed one by one. After this, Elbit erected a security perimeter around the site, but to no avail. 1 month later, 6 were arrested after Palestine Action returned to Tamworth, again taking the roof off and smashing through, preventing the production of parts for Israel's military machine. Elite KL is a specialist thermal management business. Since the sale, the company focuses on cooling systems for buses and trains. But it had, under Elbe, manufactured these systems for military vehicles. Until December of last year, Elite KL's website was advertising its military and defence products, and it was known to provide parts for Israel's deadly Merkava tanks, with export license records demonstrating its provision of ML6A components for military ground vehicles to Israel. The company was also known to manufacture crew cooling systems for the military vests of tank operators. Elbit Systems itself provides 85% of the drones and land-based military equipment for the Israeli military, along with a wide range of the munitions and armaments currently being used against Gaza's besieged population. Its CEO, Baznahel Machilis, has claimed that Israeli military has offered the company its thanks for their crucial services during the ongoing genocide in Gaza. So, I mean, just one final thing from a spokesperson. He said each activist who occupied and dismantled Tamworth's Israeli weapons factory did so in order to bring an end to Israel's weapons trade and to end the profiteering from Palestinian repression. Every defeat Elbit faces is a victory for the Palestinian population. Kicking Elbit out of Tamworth shows once again that direct action is a necessary tactic. It is one which must be utilised and amplified in the face of the Gaza genocide. So, Palestine Action came along, kept doing what we were doing. This factory went from making parts for Israeli tanks or the vests for the tank operators and other military equipment, and now they're producing parts for public transport. I mean...
Yes. So fucking amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Tamworth is like, I honestly feel like it was a bit of a surprise to us, because it's not like Bristol or the Leicester sites where they're more frequently targeted. As a matter of fact, Tamworth was heavily fortified. I suppose that was probably, well, it was a factor. It was too fortified. So there wasn't even actions like too recently there. So I honestly feel like that This was sort of a surprise. But at the same time, it just shows that they knew that it was not if but when we would come and cause, again, just millions of pounds worth of damages. And they done the right thing by choosing to build stuff for the public instead. Like, I don't know what more you can want from an arms dealer.
Wow. Yeah, so it seems that with this victory, it was a lot of the reputation of Palestine Action carrying over from its relentless work at other sites that actually pushed this victory over the edge, as opposed to like having hit it every day and had maintained a presence there constantly or something, which really shows that the the work of Palestine Action is cumulative. It is building, and the reputation is growing. So by targeting specific companies and specific subcontractors, you can then really show that the scale of the impact that you can have on that one target. And that can reverberate into actual other successes elsewhere, which is like, wow, that's amazing. Mind blown. I love that.
Yeah, shocking.
Was there anything else about that victory that you think is really important to highlight in terms of how it was different, or what it demonstrated?
Oh, I think they're absolutely right. It was our reputation that helped and forced them to close down. I think it is as simple as that. Tamworth was unique in my opinion. So firstly, the Oldham site in Manchester was forced to be shut down largely from high-level actions. That's largely rooftop occupations, smashing the machinery, smashing the inside. Mm-hmm. And then the second site that permanently shut down was Elbit Systems headquarters in London at 77 Kingsway. This was done largely by what we call low-level actions. These are lock-on actions. People put their arm in a tube, they're unable to be moved. But that still disrupts this place because nobody can enter or leave. So that Kingsway campaign went on for a few weeks, where over a period of days, actionists would lock on outside. After a few weeks of this, they permanently shut down. So we know that Oldham shut down from largely high-level actions, and 77 Kingsway shut down largely from low-level actions. But Tamworth, again, I think it was largely our reputation. It wasn't targeted with sustained direct action exactly. In 2023 or 2024, neither high-level or low-level. I can't find any on social media, again, just to support that or to deny that. The Tamworth factory was a fortress, I think perhaps the most heavily fortified of all the Elbit sites outside of RAF air bases. Wow. And yet in an email one day they told us, yeah, we've cut ties with a parent company. So I think that it's not that Tamworth wasn't heavily targeted more frequently like in Leicester or Bristol, but it was definitely on our periphery. I feel like the owners of that site would wake up every day and pray that Palestine Action wasn't on the roof, to be honest, at Tamworth. As a matter of fact, I'd guessed that because we hadn't been there in force in so long, like they were expecting us even more so, and would bring more years worth of retribution with us. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely not if, but when we'd have been back. The board did do the right thing. They stopped producing Israeli weaponry and instead produced things for public services. May every arms dealer make the same conclusion as them.
Cheers to that, yeah.
Every victory from Elbit sites permanently closing to partners and associates cutting ties was achieved because of the powerful force that is Palestine Action, powered by the people to free Palestine.
Incredible. Such incredible work. As I kind of briefly mentioned before, like I have participated in direct action, but I had never seen it be so goddamn effective. I'd never seen victories like this. I had tried to use lockdowns and, sit-ins and things to hunger strikes to pressure the UC to sever ties with the nuclear weapons labs. So the UC system manages the 2 nuclear weapons labs in the US. And that's a fucking travesty because that's our public education system that is putting its fucking seal of approval on the bombs that we make, the nuclear weapons that we make. So I was trying to put pressure on the UC regents, on, other administration to cut ties, but we never succeeded. it was so frustrating for me at the end of it. And I kind of walked away thinking, what did we do wrong here? How can we do this better? How can we actually be effective? But it wasn't until I found Palestine Action that I was like, oh shit, this model is viable. This can actually work, and you can get the fucking goods that we are looking for. So yeah, but you just have to be coordinated and, committed and targeted. Like I love that, like the BDS campaign that focuses on specific companies, Palestine Action has that same model of really, really focusing its energy to maximize its impact, to really show that this is possible and that we can come for you too, your company as well, if if you don't straighten up. So pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, amazing. That's like such cool work that you've done, and just off the back of that is there's loads of people who've done direct action, protests, and like Palestine Action isn't just like, it's not like an abstract thing. It's literally just filled with so many random people from every single different type of background. So whether that's class, ethnic, religious, ideological, it's just filled with everybody. And we wouldn't have Palestine Action if it weren't for everybody who's been involved in protest movements, direct action movements, Palestine solidarity movements for all these decades. So
yeah,
although we like to say in Palestine Action, protesting isn't going to do something, we need direct action, we also recognise that we are only here because of everybody who struggled before us. It's just that I'd like to say that Palestine Action is here now, and it's the synthesis of all of those struggles and forms of practices, and it's literally the apex of all of that and can be adopted by everybody.
Absolutely. And even some of those much lower level strategies and tactics, like protesting in big groups, that even helped the Palestine Action model, having people outside protesting, community members actually like showing up to show support as well. So, and then slowly you can pull people from that into your group and radicalize them as well. So it's cool to see how these things can work together to make Palestine Action even stronger. Did you want to say anything more about different tactics and strategies before we move on?
So there's another form of strategy that I'd like to talk about. We talked about low level and high level. They also have their own respective victories, and our reputation has its own victory. But there is also coverts as well. These are people who don't fancy getting arrested for whatever reason. They want to make a difference and then get away. So covert actions are literally just people going out in the middle of the night and just smashing places up. For example, I think it was a day or two ago, Palestine Action was involved in over 20 Barclays branches in Britain getting smashed to pieces. But furthermore, on coverts, they actually seem to be relatively more effective than arrestable actions in some ways in the right circumstances. The reason for that is because JLL property managers, the landlords of 77 Kingsway, Fisher German landlords, IO Associates, Elbit former recruitment firm, Naked Creativity, who made Elbit's website, MLL LLP, logistics company for Elbit, and Scotiabank, who halved investment to Elbit, have all been forced to cut ties. I mean, Scotiabank's going to obviously cut the rest of it, 50% of investment in Elbit soon. Like, there's no doubt about that. But all of those are companies who've cut ties with Elbit. And unlike arrestable actions, which might require 20, 30, 40 before the site shuts down, with covert actions, we see that it only takes 1-2 times before these companies are in our inbox saying that they've cut ties. Please remove them from our list of targets on our website. So
Wow.
Covert is definitely an option as well. That's a strategy that helps on the periphery.
Amazing. Yeah, that's something that I think we touched on a tiny bit when we were talking about the A-15 economic blockade for Palestine, and some of the more covert actions that took place to just like put nails in the road outside of certain facilities, shutting down that facility, shutting down access to it. Like, yeah, no one got arrested, but they were very effective. So incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just say, like, I think there was a period of time in the United States where TV shows or films, movies, as you may say, they couldn't show a crime being committed without showing the police having arrested that person. And I learned that from somebody in the Weather Underground. Yeah, so what people are brought up to think is whenever you commit a crime, police are just going to turn up and arrest you. And it's literally not like that whatsoever. It never has been like that. So a lot of the reasons why not everybody's taking action, I think it's just people policing ourselves. So I think everybody should always consider that when they want to consider taking action. Are they policing themselves? I mean, the police are paid to do that, to be class traitors. We should be revolutionaries and stand up for ultimately victims of our own country. And complicity.
Yeah. We're definitely seeing how important it is to tackle the issue of policing when we are looking at any other issues, Palestine or anything else. It's so important. Well, thank you so much for that bit about covert actions. I think that was a really important kind of third option there: high level, low level, and covert. And I have a feeling that you probably talk about these things a lot more in your trainings about how to shut down factories. So I wanted to just touch on some of the other international developments that have happened recently. And I think we have a little bit throughout this discussion, but if there's anything else that was incredibly important to highlight from other recent actions that, haven't really been covered on the show.
We do actually have other branches of Palestine Action internationally. We have places like Amsterdam, Netherlands, United States, Scotland, Belgium, Italy, Norway, and X-Power to all of those that are left out. So those branches of Palestine Action, they're obviously just doing their own thing. They're in completely different material and legal conditions. We're lucky in Britain that we have so many protest laws that we can use to justify legally what we're doing. Of course, I don't know about other countries, it's different. But what I do know is you have people with the same love in their heart as us to fight for the Palestinians in their country, and they have also adopted our theory of change as well. So I'm sure that they're going to be successful in what they're working on, which is necessary because we need to work everywhere.
Absolutely. I also thought it would be cool to highlight another recent action that took place in Edinburgh. So Palestine Action cut off a factory's internet access. This is the press release from Palestine Action. Activists from Palestine Action Scotland sabotaged the internet cables of Edinburgh's Leonardo factory and sprayed red paint over their fighter jet model displays. In the early hours of Tuesday, 28th of May, a group opened the box of cables, cut the internet wires, sprayed expanding foam inside the box, and spray painted "Stop Arming Israel" on the lid. At the front of the factory, others sprayed the fighter jet display with paint to symbolize the company's role in spilling Palestinian blood. So this is, I thought, a really cool and a creative action. Would you classify this a covert action as well?
Yeah, despite it being viral internationally, it was actually quite covert.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
That action in particular is obviously unique, but it's crucial to economic sabotage. Again, it fits in with our line and theory of change. This is actually a huge disruption for the site, and I mean, they can't get on their own website because of it. Nobody can contact them. This isn't going to be an easy replacement. This is going to cost a whole lot of money, and it's also going to cause a whole lot of problems for management. This is going to lead to dilemmas in those boardrooms again, where they're going to have to question themselves, just as Elite KL did. It's like, what are we actually going to carry on? Are we just going to spend all of our profits on security? Are we going to do this? Or are we going to cut ties? So I thought it was a terrific action. I'm glad so many people got to see it.
Yeah, definitely went very viral online, and that was so cool to see. There have been so many other actions recently, but I feel like for the sake of time, we're not really going to be able to go into detail about any of those. But yeah, definitely go and follow Palestine Action's Instagram and their Twitter, because fuck Elon, I'm not going to call it X. And so yeah, if you want to really keep up with the developments as they happen. But yeah, so we've talked a lot about the successes that Palestine Action has had and how incredible that has been. Now we're going to shift to talking about something that's a little less exciting, a little darker. There was a recent report given to Parliament that aims to ban Palestine Action. And so the UK government may actually legislate a new category for designating and banning extreme protest groups, including Palestine Action and other pro-Palestine groups, and groups that are doing climate protesting work. The sanctions, if implemented, could restrict a group's ability to fundraise and its right to assemble in the UK. So that is very, very worrying. I wonder what you want to share about that.
Yeah, so when I heard about that, I was just like, I wonder what took them so long, but also it just sort of reminds me of the work the Panthers were doing again when they were carrying their rifles around, policing the police, and that was their legal right. They were perfectly legally justified in doing what they were doing, and now they changed the law eventually to stop the Panthers from doing that. So I think that this is Britain's version of that. It's obviously nothing in comparison, but the Panthers were showing people their own power and the power over exploitation and oppression, and was essentially an invading force in their communities. And we know that Elba is an invading force in Palestine. So with it being just down the road, again, we were legally justified in doing what we were doing in the prevention of genocide. I'd like to think that most people who work there don't consent to it. And also we were preventing loss of life and property damage. So these are sort of legal defences that you can use. What we know is petitions, lobbying politicians, and protesting in city centres doesn't shut down arms factories. But direct action has and will continue to do so. You can't ban direct action, as it's just people just standing and doing the right thing in the right places. But they've attempted to ban Palestine Action. As far as I'm concerned, Palestine Action doesn't have easy public funding, and Palestine Action don't assemble in groups and things. So I don't know how policeable that is. But it's a bit too late. At the end of the day, 4 years ago, I think 7, 8 brave, incredible, the very first Palestine actionists stormed Elbit headquarters at 77 Kingsway. They thought that they were all going to go to prison, but they just knew that they had to do something more, and there was nobody else was offering anything that they could do for Palestine that made a difference. So they went in, they risked imprisonment, they got out. It's surreal to me now of their actions. The lords and politicians in Parliament are all now talking about Palestine Action. I think it's too late. It's just the people standing up. People don't have to stand up under the name Palestine Action, although I imagine many people will continue to do so regardless of the fact, because people are already risking fines, being on tag, community service, imprisonment, and it's not going to change until we just need to stop harming Israel. So, I mean, it's not a concern for Palestine Action. What concerns us is the ongoing genocide in Palestine.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. I wasn't sure what the climate was amongst activists, Palestine Action actionists, given this news. So I'm really happy to hear that people are not feeling discouraged, that, you know, the whole model of Palestine Action was already, we're not going to wait for your permission anyway. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing changes in that regard here. I was not surprised to learn that the person who has been calling the most for these restrictions, this ban on Palestine Action, is the former head of the Labor Friends of Israel, Lord Walney, who pressures the government to ban Palestine Action. He's calling on Palestine Action to be prescribed as an extremist organization. He's been revealed to be simultaneously chair of the Purpose Business Coalition, part of Crown Associates, which lobbies for arms company Leonardo, a regular target of Palestine Action. So this guy has some direct ties to the companies that Palestine Action is targeting. So of course he would be publicly, pushing this forward. No conflict of interest there.
No, I wish that this Squire would live stream, because I'd love to see his reaction to Palestine Action's videos and pictures when they go up. I think that this is just somebody who, first of all, like this person's supposed to be like one of our rulers, like a lord to us peasants in Britain, to try and advise the government on how to deal with people as brave and cool and radically legendary as us. I think that we're actually chipping away at their utopian vision of a Zionist state. I think that it's so personal to them that we are literally ruining their retirement plans in Palestine. I actually do believe that.
Wow.
Obviously they've got their own business solutions. This is just just a typical arms trade cash grabs that lords get up to. So they're paid by Israel. They're literally making money off killing Palestinians, and they do have a utopia in mind. It's like, for them, they are literally personally under attack. If they're listening, I understand. I do understand that that's how you feel. It just doesn't matter, because it's outweighed by the death and destruction that people have been exposed to. You cannot stop it. There's no turning back. The West has lost their cultural hegemony. It's people are exposed to things from beyond the West, from beyond the West's sources, with the West's headlines and descriptions on how to think and feel about these things. We're well past that. It's time to take action, and they can try to ban Palestine Action, but you can't ban action. Can't ban progress. I hate them.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that, in spite of the attempts at repression, Palestine Action will live on. It will continue, even if it's taking the form of, individuals taking action without the name of Palestine Action, but inspired by Palestine Action. It may take very different forms in the future, but Palestine Action will not die.
Yeah. It's one of those things. They're in a sticky situation, because obviously if they could just deem Palestine Action terrorists, they would. But while they're trying to show themselves in democracy in the West as the most progressive and fair and free society, they can't be calling Palestine Action terrorists either. Even extremists is a bit too far, because you can have elderly women. No offense to women, but you can have elderly women who've just done nothing but love and nurture people the whole life, taking action, and then the government would apparently be calling them terrorists or extremists. It's they're shooting themselves in the foot with this. What will emerge after Palestine Action, if it's ever forced to disband, will be even more of a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. I'm wondering, as we're kind of tying things up here, you had mentioned when we were talking earlier, it's important to talk about like counting our victories and how do you actually say something was a success. And I was just wondering if you wanted to share some of the thoughts that you had shared with me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a win, isn't it? This is a win because in all of the history of Israel and Palestine and struggle, this has never happened before. We've never been able to talk about having so many victories. So the fact that we are is a huge win. It's needed in the movement. We need to prove that these things are possible and how it's done, and that it's not just some heavenly body that's making these things happen. It's every single different type of person. These victories now, in of themselves, are only possible through so many other previous actions. Like, there was never an action in any of these victories where you can say that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, there was never one specific action. It was literally a multitude of them. It wasn't just that, but it was even actions where people might have been arrested getting to the action. As long as people are setting out from a door or setting out to go to an Israeli factory to smash it up, to disrupt it, that's a huge win. This is what we need. We don't need more complicity. We don't need more of the same. We know what works. If people aren't prepared to take an action but really want to build on these victories, you can also direct local protests that you might already attend to the weapons factories specifically. As a matter of fact, I know people who have protested outside Elbit sites, just literally just protesting with banners and flags, no action taking place, and just their announcements, because it's been so repetitive, have forced the workers to be told to not come into work because they're intimidated and all of this. But really, the workers just want a day off and get paid for it. So, like, even peaceful protest in a city centre so far away from the court, from the source, can be taken to these sites. If you just like type into Insta shutdown Raphael or shutdown, there's all these different shutdown groups, and they're the local communities going out to these local arms dealers. These are the sources. So I think we're winning as long as we're supporting Palestine Action, taking action and protesting in the right place.
Another thing that Palestine Action has taught me can be a victory is even going to court, like getting arrested and having to go to court and having this play out more publicly, having the public have to learn about this and then judge for themselves, like, were they in the right or not? Getting that kind of even coverage of the actions can be a win, even though it feels like this is a scary thing. You're having to deal with the court system, that can actually be something that furthers the movement and furthers the cause. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool thing that I've learned from the work of Palestine Action, that there's all these other successes built into the whole process of engaging and the aftermath of participating in these direct actions. And all of that can be leveraged for positive gains for Palestinian liberation or whatever the cause is that you're working on.
Yeah, totally. That was very well said. We are a direct action network, so I just want to thank everybody in the network. It's people going out to the police stations to support the actionists when they get outside, people attending court with banners, flags, supporting the actionists, maybe even putting them up if they have to stay in somewhere where they don't live for a period of days or a week. And everybody who likes and shares all of our stuff, we're up against the algorithm, we're up against celebrities or pop culture stuff. This is important. Please like, share. It's free to do. Subscribe while you can, at least.
Oh gosh.
And also, again, if you happen to be wealthy or rich, we do have legal funds that could always do with money for people who need to pay for the solicitors and barristers. And also just a general support funds for if you're not going to climb a ladder, but you can also pay for the ladder for people to use. It can be done on our website.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, you might not smash up an arms factory, but maybe you'll buy a hammer. As I think Max said that on my show.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, and you just said something about, like, subscribe while you can. If this ban goes through, are you worried about the future of the Lumpen Proletarian Radio, your show?
Like, I've always felt, this is why I've done it as well, because I just felt it's literally my duty and responsibility to just share revolutionary messages, thoughts, analysis with people and try and build on a sort of Marxism that's fit for purpose nowadays. And as a matter of fact, I've even thought about, forming a new communist or Marxist organisation, but the same thoughts just occurred to me. As like, how could any Marxist communist organisation in this country even compare to the work of Palestine Action? It can't. You just need to crack on being Palestine Action. But as for my podcast, that's sort of a place where I can give people a message that they're not going to hear anywhere else, and I'll deal with listening back to myself in court one day. I do expect that.
Yeah.
But people, we need to hear what's going on and what needs to be said.
Yeah, the more I do the show, the more I'm like, it's a matter of time before I have to hear my own clips from my show played back to me in court. Like, oh, but I'm so impressed that you are not afraid of any of this, and you are just going to continue to use your voice and use your body to shut down this fucking imperialist war machine. It is exactly what this fucking world needs. It's what the Palestinian people need. It's what people in the imperial core need to feel hope about the ability to make any change in this fucked up world. So I'm so blown away by you, by your commitment to the cause, by your brilliant fucking mind. Like, seriously, people, go listen to his show. It's awesome. And yeah, just forever grateful for everything that you have sacrificed for Palestine.
You're too kind. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I am scared sometimes. I'm scared for my other friends and comrades. People who take action don't just want to go out and smash windows or lie in a road and be cold and potentially be kicked in the head by evil staff. It's just, again, the same reason I do my podcast, the same reason we take action. If not us, then who? Like, it's literally up to us. We live on this planet Earth only for a short time, and we have to do this. We have to communicate. We have to pass on our own revolutionary culture, rather than just picking up bourgeois culture and morality if we need change. And similarly, I'd just like to quote one of, our only political prisoner right now. So they are a prisoner of conscience. They say, "I am in prison for trying to stop a genocide. My freedom is predated upon the extermination of others. We are told as British citizens to choose between losing our liberty or allowing the slaughter of at least 40,000 people, men, women and children. This is intimidation, and it cannot work. We will not be quiet, and we will not stop until all of the Palestinian people are free. Those who do not move do not notice their chains, and I will move mountains." And indeed, they have moved me.
Wow, that was incredible. That definitely gave me some chills just now. I love that so much. Well,
bless them.
Bless them indeed. Yeah, cheers to them. Were there any other plugs or things that folks can do to support Palestine Action and get involved?
Yeah, so most definitely follow us on Instagram, pal_action. Same on Twitter. We also have a Telegram now as well. I think that what the plan is there is to try and post extra stuff that's not on Twitter or Instagram, just to try and draw more people towards our Telegram. This is again
smart.
just to sort of preempt this potential ban that could affect our social medias. So I'd ask everyone to go over to Telegram first, as a matter of fact, and follow us there. You can also subscribe to our newsletter with your email. They're great. I mean, as soon as something happens, you get a press release and a bit more details about it. So please do that. Again, just have you just mentioned our only prisoner right now? So I think we normally have a way where people can contact our prisoners. So if you can send them some money, if you can send them a nice message, that would be terrific. I imagine that you'd find the details for that on Instagram or Twitter. Plug yourselves into the movement. Like, you're not going to regret it. If you have questions, concerns, that's what the training's always there for. The training days can be found on our Instagram and Twitter once again. So yeah, just follow all of our socials. Please like everything. Get the message out. It shows other people what's possible, and it will help us shut Albert down.
Amazing. Hell yeah. Please do everything that he is suggesting. We need to keep building this movement, keep putting the pressure on Elbit systems, and shutting this shit down. So yeah, I love it. Shibby, this has been so amazing, and I'm so stoked to be connected with you and working kind of in collaboration from afar on the things that we care about the most. It definitely gives me life, and it makes my heart happy. So yeah, I really, really hope that we will stay connected and keep working together. And I'm always here to support anything that needs support. I trust your judgment about that kind of stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'd love to learn more about your political past as well, and some of that action maybe one day on my show. But
awesome.
Again, thank you for your support as well.
Of course. I'm always here for it. And I'm just a huge fucking fan of your work, a huge fucking fan of your successes, and your relentless, fearless approach to doing this work too. So cheers to you, Shibby.
I'm going to cheers to myself, man. Social. Too social. No, but thank you. I'd like to think that this has inspired people to stand up and take action, or fill in the roles to support people taking action. So as far as I'm concerned, you're an honorary member of Palestine Action right now.
Awesome. I appreciate that. That is a badge that I can wear with real honor. Oh my God. Well, Shibby, okay, I will let you go, but I feel like I could talk with you for fucking ever. Cheers and solidarity, and we will stay in touch, I'm sure.
Brilliant. Love and solidarity, comrade. And as always, workers and the lumpen of the world, unite for a free Palestine.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning into this anti-capitalist project. To remain independent and free from the corrupting influence of corporations, Cocktails and Capitalism has rejected the corporate advertising model. Instead, we've decided that the only ethical approach to funding our work is through the kind, supportive listeners like you and revolutionary groups that embody our values. This show was sponsored by Beautiful Trouble, an international network of organizers, artists, and trainers working to equip grassroots movements with the tools to become more creative, effective, and irresistible. If you value the work that we're doing here at Cocktails and Capitalism, we would deeply appreciate any amount you're able to contribute through Patreon, even if it's only $1 a month. This project involves a massive amount of research, networking, content creation, and editing, all of which has been done by myself and a small team of volunteers. None of us have been paid for our time and labor, but I hope to make this work more financially sustainable in the future. You can lend a hand by signing up on Patreon, or by purchasing merch through my friend's shop, Punk with a Camera, which I've linked in the show notes. For those of you who are unable to contribute financially, which is totally understandable in this fucked up economy, you can still support the show by giving us a rating and writing a review on Apple and Spotify. Doing this would really help to increase our visibility. This anti-capitalist project is still quite small, so telling your friends about it can actually make a significant difference. Please follow us on Instagram, where I'm most active, as well as Threads, TikTok, and Twitter. That's right, fuck you, Elon. As those of you who are following already know, suppression of the kind of content we talk about on the show is rampant on social media. By engaging with and sharing our posts, you can help to counter this repression while inviting others to learn about the current anti-capitalist struggles for social and environmental justice. Big thanks to John, our producer and audio editor, Jesse Torres, our resident anti-capitalist bartender, Dredd, our video editor, and Anthony, who's been helping me with social media. To all of our existing patrons, thank you so goddamn much. Your support truly helps to keep this anti-capitalist independent media project alive. Much love to you all. Cheers and solidarity forever.